Right, we're here with the Rome 2 guys.
Hey. I'm Al Dickham, Communications Manager at the studio.
Cool. Hi, I'm Jan van der Krabben, game designer.
And Elliot Locke, multiplayer designer.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to start off with some community questions. So we went to the community, asked them what they really wanted to know, and then thought we'd feedback some questions and hopefully get some answers they wanted. So Smoom asks, I'm really confused about a feature expanding the cities.
Yeah.
When the actual cities expand on the map, as you know, as a population, and you build more buildings in there. When it cuts to the actual battles in the city, sieges and such, will the city reflect the fact that it's grown? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. To an extent. I mean, we have a number of different city battle maps across all the different kind of cultural, architectural types.
Right.
So they won't. What you see on the map, it won't be an exact reflection of that, but it will. You know, depending on its size, whether it's like size 1, 2, 3, 4.
So there's X templates, and it's not dynamic.
Exactly. So you have your Greco-Roman cities of certain sizes, but the main difference is that certain key cities, Rome, Carthage, Alexandria, Athens, and Babylon as well.
Yeah.
So we've got kind of specific maps for those, those uber capitals.
So you've got some like landmark cities which are
pretty amazing. They're huge. I mean, these unique settlements are amazing. They're really tailored. We've really specifically gone in to make them look historically authentic. There's still amazing gameplay there, and they're really cool.
With cities like that dynamic and that large, do you not find that maybe sometimes if you're only sieging with one army, does it not feel perhaps for the player that there's not necessarily enough, you don't necessarily bring enough troops to fill it all out and actually give it justice?
Well, I don't think so much, because the thing is, you've got a number of, especially with this large city, you've got a number of ways you can take that city.
Right.
So you've got a number of kind of routes in. I mean, you can just take a load of onagers and smash the walls down and walk in if you want, but or you can try to.
It's fun.
Which is fun, yeah. But these big cities, they'll have a main gate, they'll have a side gate, maybe a couple of side gates. So, are you going to attack from the sea? Are you going to be, using artillery from the sea on your ships to support that attack? So, they don't necessarily, it's not like there's so much space you're running around wondering what to do. And the enemy is obviously going to be realigning its forces to deal with whichever way you're attacking. So, and then you've got, on top of that, you've got the line of sight system, which is new in place in Rome 2 now. So, if you've got some troops coming down an avenue, and his troops are over in the other side of the city, they might not know they're there because they might be hidden from view. So,
you can spring ambushes in.
Exactly, yeah.
And the full-size army is pretty big.
Yes.
It's actually quite difficult to control. I think sometimes.
Compared to something like Shogun 2, with one single army, that was something. Was it 12 separate units?
Well, we had 20
units, but it's up to 40 basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So could you? Well, I don't know whether you could do with the original Shogun, but I know that when I was playing the latest Shogun 2 expansion, you could bring in a second army.
That's right.
And it would literally control the second army at the same time. And are you implementing the same thing in?
Exactly.
Yeah. You can also bring in a navy, and then you have both the army and the navy, and you have a combined attack, which is a challenge to coordinate, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the siege battles, one of the other things we put in them is in Shogun you had the single capture point, so it's kind of a focal point where you had to. It was quite a crowd. We spread that out now. There's 3, so you're kind of competing for areas like sections of the city. So if you've got only a small force and you're assaulting a large settlement, you can go around that settlement and start capturing. You don't have to. It's not just going to be one mush crux in the middle. It's going to be spread, right? You're going to go and capture the east of the settlement. That's going to win you that battle.
And that makes battles much more dynamic, because if you're going for a main capture point, like your enemy's going to be like, well, he's sending all his forces there, I'm going to go and defend that capture point.
Right.
But you might just be doing that as a kind of
ruse.
As a ruse.
Like Trojan.
And then what you're doing is actually sending a few smaller units and trying to keep them secreted in the back streets to get around and capture that capture point there, and he's going to spot that and try and counter that. So it's a lot more cat and mouse in terms of the gameplay within cities or sieging.
Stinger asks, Smoom asks again, there were sharks on some of the ships we've seen in a lot of the demonstrations. What exactly does the shark represent? What does it
means attrition. It means that the unit is either in the high seas, or it doesn't have enough food, or that it is in a siege. And basically on the sea, when you have attrition, you see sharks around the boats, and on land you see vultures circling above. And on land it would be if you're in the deep desert or in the icy north, and you're just losing men.
A bit like when it's winter in
exactly, yeah,
precisely. Stinger asks, will capital cities and important characters, factional leaders and such, have a bigger importance in this? Which we've already kind of answered with capital cities, as in Rome and Babylon and such. But what about important characters? Will we see anything dynamic about these important characters rather than just stats? Will they actually have a character to themselves?
Yeah, to some extent, because they're so much more customizable. It's like we were talking earlier.
Each character essentially will have its own kind of character, I guess. Because you can level them up in very different ways, and they gain different traits. So sometimes somebody might have a trait that he's very good at attacking, so you might want to push that and really go for the attacking route, and then you might level him up in such a way that at some point he can do night attacks and is really good at ambushing at night or something like that.
With these legendary heroes, I mean, can you give me an example of some of the heroes that we will see that are historically named?
Oh man, pick one out of a hat.
Well, something like Caesar or something like that. I mean,
we've got a Caesar that may or may not appear in your empire.
Exactly, but I mean, are they individually voiced, for instance, or is it a generic voice?
I don't think so. I think they some of the very unique characters have a specific model, but I don't think they have individual voice acting or anything like that.
No, we don't have that, but they again, the customizability of each one means you can go, right, actually, you might want to build your Caesar to be the kind of general that Caesar was, and send him out in the field, so he's particularly good at certain things,
As far as the actual cities are concerned, the big cities, the capital cities, for instance Rome and Babylon, if you capture these cities, does it make a difference, more of a difference? Would it make it easier to capture the smaller cities? It's still part of Stinger's question, is that basically he's implying if you take something like Rome, obviously it would be a massive deal to the rest of the Romans, the fact that they've lost Rome. Would it then affect, in a single player, would it affect the campaign? Would it make, or is it just that, the same as taking any other city?
I mean, basically each province has a capital, and these capital cities, they are very important. So taking that away is, of course, kind of a big deal to any faction who owns them. So Rome, for example, and most of the other big cities are province capitals. So in that sense, simply through the game dynamics, it's a big deal.
Right.
Some of these cities, like Alexandria, are also in a location where there's a world wonder. So it would be the pyramids. There are actually two world wonders, I think, in the
Great Library of Alexandria as well, is it?
Or is it the lighthouse?
Sorry, the lighthouse.
It's the lighthouse and the pyramids. So, for example, the Egypt province has two world wonders in it. So if you take that has a big effect, of course, on the faction, because these world wonders have an effect that is not just provincial, but often across the entire empire of those who own it.
All right. So when you take that off, then basically you're receiving the benefits and you're taking the benefits of them. So
exactly.
It is kind of
not every capital has a world wonder associated with it, but some do.
Okay. Can I ask about just going back to the characters?
Sure.
Because in one of your
Thanks, Mike.
One of your dev blogs, you talked about armies had that ability that they would level up. There would be the historical nature of the armies. Is there a synergy between the characters and those armies? Like, if a certain army... So, is it actually that, say, if Caesar is attached to that army, that's like Caesar's Legion, do they then gain bonuses from that? Or is that just the general is
I don't think there's any specific kind of predefined synergy between an army and a general. It's not like this general is better attached than that. It's you as a player need to decide who do I want to attach to which army, and then essentially you create the synergies. And if you're a good strategist, you might just create this amazing army, or you might not. You might miss something, and there's a missed opportunity there. So
your generals have, with the trait system we have, which kind of does away with skill trees for generals. You've got a huge pool of traits that you can choose for them now. So when you level up, you can stick a new trait on them or upgrade an existing trait. And I think there's 10 levels. Skills, yeah. So the skills that you choose dictate those synergies. So, for example, if you want a certain army that you've got, if you're thinking, I want one of my armies to be really good at ambushing because he's going to be campaigning in a foresty area like Gaul or Europe or somewhere like that, I should really be taking advantage of the ambush mechanics in the game now. So you can level your general up through his skill system to confer better ambush bonuses on the army that he's working with, and more abilities to kind of spot ambushes if they're about to happen as well. So
and you can level up the army as well to be better at ambushing.
Exactly. So you can actually specialize the army.
Exactly. You have essentially a skill tree or a set of skills that you can level up there, and also depending on how the army has behaved and what skills you've previously chosen, you will get different skills. So it's quite interesting.
So
how it works.
the army is like another character. The general's a character, the army is a character. Obviously, the army is made up of thousands of men of tons of different units, which all have their individual veterancy as well. They'll get better at fighting as they go through, and they gain experience. But the army itself, just as you manage it in the UI, is like a character in its own right. It has 10 skills, 10 traditions, in the same way that a general has up to 10 traditions that he gains over time.
That's for the global unit of the army. If you split that army in two, what happens then?
Well, you can't split the army in two.
Right.
So our whole approach now is not. An army isn't just a bunch of units. An army has a character. It has its own standards. An army. The whole point of this is that we want people to be playing and thinking in terms of legions. One of the things you do in Rome 2 is you build legendary legions over time. Now, if it so happens that you've overstretched yourself, say, and you've got so many armies out there that you can't afford to upkeep them all, and it's draining your coffers dry every year, then you can retire those armies still. But you can, when you retire those armies, you could raise that standard again and put new guys underneath it, and that you'll still retain all those bonuses.
Fitzpatrick actually asks, what's the maximum number of armies you can actually have in one campaign?
So that's dependent on your empire level, isn't it?
Yeah, basically you have Imperium, it's called. It's like an empire level.
Yeah, right.
So it depends on how much you've conquered, and the more regions you've conquered, the more armies you will be able to maintain. I'm not entirely sure what the current maximum is.
More than 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A few questions about the multiplayer then. Are we going to see co-op in the same sense that we've seen in Shogun 2 and Empire?
For the campaign, we're going to have co-op again, 2-player co-op. We're going to have, so it'll be in the same vein as Shogun. You'll be able to play 1 versus 1 or co-op campaign through Rome. So yeah,
fantastic. And what about the multiplayer itself? What innovations are we going to see from? Say,
we've done
Shogun
some
2?
pretty big, cool things with the multiplayer. One of the things we've got, or the new features, is we've basically exposed the campaign map in multiplayer, which means you can click. We've exposed like an image of the campaign map. You can click anywhere you want on that campaign and play a battle, and you'll get this unique battle that you would get on the campaign map. And we've got thousands of maps, and I mean thousands. Probably millions. Probably hitting like 10,000. There is a lot of maps. If you go and click on Teutoburg, for example, you would get the Teutoburg battle. If you click slightly north of there, you get a similar vein. You get this nice, cool forest in Germania.
You might see what's on that previous map in the outfield because you're 2 miles away.
See it. Yeah, you would see that stuff in the outfield. The same goes for the wonders. Like if I went and played in England near Stonehenge, and I click there, I get Stonehenge in the outfield. Or if I went and played in near the Nile, I get the pyramids in the outfield. It's this really, really cool feature that we're pushing through. You can play multiplayer up to 4 versus 4 in all across the campaign, which is really, really awesome.
And if you find maps you love, you can just mark them as favourites, and it will remember those It'll remember those coordinates.
History log.
Yep.
Are we going to see a Time Commanders too? Using the Rome 2 engine?
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Where we can all get frustrated at how bad they all are.
What are you doing with your elephants?
Oh no, idiots! I'm charging with the phalanx.
So we've got that feature. We've also got we're looking at we've got a quick match feature, which basically is more of a sort of competitive, serious, balanced section of multiplayer. So what you'll do through there is it will take you straight into a battle. You'll pick your faction, and that's it. That's all you're doing. The faction has a preset sort of balanced army, and in you go. You're going to fight 1 versus 1.
So you've got kind of fighting historical battles as well, not so much historical, but set battles.
Set battles. So yeah, well, of course we've got I just said we've got thousands of maps. Not all of these maps are perfectly balanced, right? So we've hand-picked and handcrafted certain maps so that these are balanced maps and cool, fun maps. They're injected into this quick match where matchmaking, pair you up against a good rival, and then you'll face off with balanced map and a balanced army, and it all go into a leaderboard. I believe it's going to work up to 4 versus 4. So 1 versus 1 up to 4 versus 4 quick match battles.
Are we going to see similar things that we saw in Shogun in certain map types where you could capture a certain building that would give you better archers?
No, we haven't got that. We've gone more back to the sort of classical. We were sort of listening to the forums. A lot of people want to go roll back a bit, back to the sort of classic approach that we did in Rome. So we've gone for something like that, but taken it obviously a little step further with certain features like this campaign map, battlefield selection, and the quick match tool.
And of course the sheer ridiculous variety of different units that we have in Rome 2.
Well, that's the
multiplayer. It's like
that's what's been missing, I think, for all of us. Rome 1, I know for Steve, and I think for Tom and myself as well. But,
you can have your phalanx.
As good as all the Total War games have been, and I've spent hundreds of hours in Shogun and hundreds of hours in Empire. It was lacking the dynamic kind of armies that Rome had. Just a complete difference between the Egyptian army.
There is a huge difference. I mean, the difference is insane. Yeah, just going from one faction to another and just feeling the difference in the way that you have to play them and you have to fight them, and the number of sort of counters, and you'll be in this game for ages learning your best setups, and you think you've got one down, and then a guy will just come in with a sort of a really cool counter, and it's so impressive. And with all the other stuff we've chucked in, I mean, like we mentioned the line of sight system earlier, like that hits multiplayer big, and that means change up. The way you play multiplayer now is just so cool.
Yeah,
so
you can now really hide units and really kind of go around the back, and the other guy doesn't see it, and then he's surprised and he's like, oh, that's it.
The amount of times I've been hiding behind a little hill, and you just line up. Someone else has been hiding behind a little hill, and I line up my army and I go forward and I'm like, right, I got this, and then suddenly this wave just pours over the hill, and you're done for. So
everywhere else.
Yeah.
A few final questions then. Which each is your personal favourite faction at the moment?
Probably Macedon for me. I'm just loving having spear walls. Walls of spearmen and phalanx at the moment. So
that was my favourite in Rome.
Although that probably wars with kind of Parthia Pontus in terms of cataphracts are just a lovely thing to have. So.
I'm a big Pontus fan actually, because they really marry the Persian traditions with the Greek culture, and that's reflected in the army as well, and that technology tree. And of course you can create your own little empire around the Black Sea, and that's really cozy.
It's definitely Parthia for me because of the cataphracts. I love to micro down my units, so just taking all of these cavalry and stuff like that and just literally dodging volleys of arrows with them, but microing like a huge army. I love it. So they're for me, and they're so powerful. A really strong unit.
One last question. We promised ourselves we were going to ask this at every single interview we do. It doesn't matter how irrelevant it is. Xbox One or PS4. We're all PC gamers. I just want to point that out. We're all PC gamers at heart. That's what we spend 90%
I think we need to ask our console team about this.
You're not allowed to sit on the wall of this. You can just say PC if you want. Oh, you're not even allowed to say
I don't even own. I'm not getting one. Either.
Fair enough.
I'm not getting either.
But we're going to Sony next, and we're going to be asking them the same question. I hope someone slips up and goes, Microsoft Store at Sony and says the opposite one.
That would be amazing.
So,
no, I will admit I'm not going to get it. I'm not getting either. I'll be honest.
Fair enough.
I'm probably getting both.
Because I'm a hardcore PC gamer.
Yeah, this is it. I do most of my game on PC anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. I try. Why won't left mouse button work? Thank you very much, gents. It's been a fantastic interview.
Thank you.
Really good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
All right.
Cheers, mate.